Ship frames are simply interconnected beams with all of the other parts bolted to them. In order to have a valid ship frame, beams need to be attached at least 2 points. For example, on the left, each beam is only connected at 1 point, and this would not be a valid frame. In the center example, the middle beam is attached at 2 points and would be valid, but the other 2 beams are not valid because they're only connected at 1 point. And the example on the right, all beams are connected at 2 points each, making it a valid frame. In this example, we can determine the validity of the frame by using the durability tool and selecting any point of the frame. Green highlighted sections are valid and are properly welded together and connected at 2 points each. And the yellow sections will tell you that in order to become part of a frame, the beam needs to be connected at 2 points. I'll fix this by inserting the beam the rest of the way, using the welding tool to weld the beam, and now it shows green. You can get pretty creative with touching beams together in order to create valid frames. They just need to touch. So in this case, these points where it barely touches or appears to barely touch actually results in a valid frame. And that brings us to joints. In the top example, I have 2 beams butted up against one another. These will weld just fine. In the next example, I have 2 beams connected by a corner piece, which is a type of intersection, and that will also weld just fine. And in the bottom section, I'm using an actual intersection piece to join beams together, which will also weld just the same as the others. All these are perfectly valid examples. Just because there's intersection pieces in the game doesn't mean you have to use them to join beams together. One note on intersections, there's 48 centimeter sections and 36 centimeter sections. The smallest building block is the 24 centimeter beam, and the protrusions on the 48 centimeter beams are 24 centimeters, which is really handy when calculating dimensions. On the 36 centimeter intersections, they're only 12 centimeters, and so you have a half width. And depending on how you plan around those dimensions, it can really mess you up later on. So just kind of keep that in mind as you build. You'll also notice in the asset browser there are special beams. Some say symmetrical and a couple of the others do not. In front of me we have 3 examples of symmetricals, so the 71 by 32, 66 by 38, and 93 by 55. All of these come together to form circles, and I place some beams in the middle just to show the inside dimensions. But if you use these other couple pieces here with different length ends, they can be really difficult to work with, and you can end up with intersections that are not even remotely square, or in some cases just a couple centimeters off, and it can be extremely frustrating. So I wouldn't recommend working with those until you have a lot of experience. When designing a hull for your ship, it's nice to use a box design because everything kind of comes together symmetrically, which is very important when adding thrusters later on. One of my favorite design patterns is actually doing what I call ribs. So I kind of have a design, and you could use angled beams or sort of a boxy design, whatever you like. And you can just take a section of that and copy and paste it to increase the length of your ship. And that way, as you're building, you can make more space easily, but keep a nice symmetrical design while you're doing so. Couple things to keep in mind while you're designing the dimensions of your ship are the height and width of machinery, as well as the height of your player character within the game itself. In this case, I have some machinery on a 192 centimeter platform. You'll notice it fits very well side by side. And the height of everything is 96 centimeters, which I can show by placing a beam above the panel directly next to the machinery. Your character is 192 centimeters high as well, not including the backpack. And what we found is when you're walking around at exactly that height with a backpack, it will catch on things above you. So it's nice to add just a 24 centimeter, like a single beam width above that 192, just to give that freedom of movement to your character while you're playing the game. Down below here I've got a rib design with some ducts included in it. You'll notice these ducts are not bolted. And I'll just use the auto bolt tool on them ahead of time because bolts will not go through wires or pipes, and it can be a little frustrating if you forget to bolt your ducts down and then you're trying to wire stuff later on and then bolt on top of that. In this case, I've designed this such that the machinery will fit right inside. So let me copy and paste this a couple times. And I'll just drop this entire bed of machinery right into the ship. And you'll notice it fits the height perfectly. I've got ducts in here, they're all touching together. And just that little bit of pre-planning is going to save me a lot of frustration in the future as I build this ship out. And finally, let's talk about designing hardpoints around your frame design. Hardpoints are required for thrusters and a lot of the utility tools and devices that'll be attached to your ship. With the small hardpoint, you can just use the 48 centimeter corners. That'll create a perfect box around it. The large hardpoint, same thing, with 72 centimeter straight beams added. And then the corner one, the corner hardpoint, can be a little funky. These 108 centimeter angle beams are the only ones that fit precisely in the profile of the hardpoint. The other ones don't like to snap in there very well, and so in this case I just designed the rest of the frame around it with some corner pieces. Alright, now let's say I wanted to reuse this a few different times on my ship. We'll add a couple ducts on here just for completeness. Make sure we bolt them down ahead of time. I'm going to use the bolt tool manually here because it didn't auto bolt. Now what I can do is create a new module with the button up here. Select all the parts of it. Oops. Save it as my cool ship module. Save. Attach all those parts to it. And under my module designs, we'll have my cool ship module, and it's all put together for me already, bolted down, everything. And I can reuse that as many times as I like.